So what do I mean by diet saboteurs? What are they? They're the foods and drinks which tempt us and sabotage our efforts to lose weight and be healthy. And they're the foods and the drinks that, we think we can't do without. To quote Slimming World, they say, life's got to be worth living, so you've got to allow yourself some treats. But those treats are the ones that actually sabotage. So the reality is that most of the diet saboteurs are highly addictive, and we may struggle to break those addictions. But the good news is that once you have, the foods you previously thought you couldn't live without lose their appeal, and in many cases actually taste unpleasant. I know for myself that if I were to eat something very sugary now, it would taste almost repulsive in my mouth. I just don't want to eat it. And this is all down to the fact that you're re-educating your taste buds, and they get desensitized by a lot of addictive foods. So I'm going to talk about the worst culprits in the following slides. So the ones that we think we can't live without are the stimulants, the caffeinated drinks that give us a quick energy fix. I've talked to so many people who say I can't possibly start the day without my cup of coffee. But tea, coffee, cola drinks, energy drinks, they all contain caffeine. Now, caffeine does many things in your body that maybe you don't realize. First of all, it acts as a diuretic. So that is, it makes you pee more and you lose water. So for every caffeinated drink that you have, you lose an equivalent amount of fluid. So the net result is that your body hasn't actually had the fluid that it needs. And it stimulates the production of adrenaline. That's your stress hormone, your get out of danger fast hormone. And that's what gives you the caffeine buzz, because adrenaline diverts blood from your digestion, it raises your blood pressure, and it causes a quick release of energy into your bloodstream. And when I say energy, I mean glucose, to give you a quick burst of energy so that if you were in danger, you could act fast. Now, of course, blood glucose levels go up, which causes an insulin release, because reality is you're probably not running away to save your life. You're just getting ready to go to work or you're at your desk. So there's too much glucose floating around in your bloodstream, and insulin dumps it back into fat stores. And also the sugar in these drinks makes them really addictive. So I always say to people, you've got to do what feels right for you, but if you go cold turkey, you may have withdrawal headaches, you may feel a bit shaky, miss the buzz, and I think it's better to just cut down slowly and to make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. So thinking about these caffeinated drinks, and particularly fizzy drinks, they can contain an absolute chemical cocktail that poisons your body. The sugar content can be really high, as much as 7 teaspoons of sugar in a half a pint of pop. And don't be fooled by diet drinks or, these zero sugar drinks. They're really no better than their sugar-laden counterparts. If you have a look at the labels, you'll see that there really is a concoction of chemicals. And, I'm just going to give you an example from a particular very well-known brand. So aspartame is used as a sweetener, and it's in a huge range of diet foods and snacks, sports drinks, sweets, desserts. Now, it is a really controversial food additive, and it's been linked to headaches, blindness, seizures, leukemia, lymphoma. And all of that's fueled the argument that aspartame should never have been licensed to be used as a food supplement. It's got a really long history, and it's given rise to more complaints about side effects than any other food additive. In fact, at one time, I don't know if you knew, it was on the Pentagon's list of prospective biochemical warfare weapons. It is really seriously that toxic a chemical. So phosphoric acid is what puts the fizz into fizzy drinks, and as an acid, it erodes teeth enamel, and your body has to draw calcium out of the bones to neutralize the acid. What's happening with children who have been brought up having these fizzy drinks is that they're now suffering from osteoporosis. So another chemical is sodium benzoate, and it's used as a preservative in lots of foods, and it can inhibit the function of your digestive enzymes. It really should be avoided by anybody who suffers, say, from hay fever or asthma. So, that's just a few of the chemicals that's in these drinks, and they really would be better avoided and stick to having some water instead. So as I mentioned a moment ago, artificial sweeteners in general are neurotoxic, damaging your brain and your nervous system and causing a plethora of side effects. But they do also sabotage your diet. People use these sweeteners and have diet drinks because they think it's going to help them lose weight. But actually the opposite is true. Because they taste sweet, your body doesn't understand this is just a chemical, and it triggers the release of insulin. And as you now know, insulin will take surplus sugar out of the bloodstream and dump it into your fat stores. And because your body hasn't had the food that it needs, it sends out hunger signals, making you eat more. You may have heard of the book Pure, White and Deadly, and that isn't talking about cocaine, it's talking about sugar. Because sugar's been stripped of all of its nutritional value. Your body can't make use of it, it can't metabolize it, and it causes an acid accumulation in your brain and your nervous system, interfering with cell respiration. So cells need oxygen to function properly, and if they can't get that, they die, and that can lead to degenerative diseases. And excess sugar is stored in your liver, in the fat around your stomach, breast, bottom and thighs. But when those fat stores are full, the excess sugar gets dumped around the organs. That's called the visceral fat, and that slows down your organ function. So I hope I'm getting the message across that you need to dump sugar and sweeteners. There are alternatives such as xylitol, which is a natural sugar from plums, and also coconut palm sugar. So you might want to have a look at those instead. So people often don't realise that sugar is actually addictive. It is one of the most addictive food substances. And people will crave sugar and sweet foods because they know that it makes them feel better if they have something sweet. They enjoy the taste. They may feel that they couldn't do without it. And when they have sugary foods, that causes a release of dopamine in the brain. Now, dopamine is the chemical that makes you experience pleasure, and it's released during pleasurable situations, and it also stimulates you to seek out more of the pleasurable stimulants. So sugar, sex, and recreational drugs are also stimulants of dopamine release in the brain. Now, because the sugar causes a massive spike in your blood sugar levels, insulin is released. And of course that sets off a drop in the blood sugar levels because excess sugar is going into fat stores. And you get that, remember what I called that flaky feeling? And as soon as the sugar gets dumped in the fat stores, there's no more release of dopamine. And you want the high again, you want that feel-good feeling, and so you crave more sugar. And this sets off that feeling you've really got to just go and have something sweet or sugary, maybe that cup of coffee with some sugar in it. And having sweet treats like Sins, Weight Watchers biscuits, etc. just feeds the addiction. And you keep going, and it's a vicious cycle where you go just round and round and round, repeating the same behaviours. But the low GL way of eating will break this cycle, and it will set you free from sugar addiction. And I know, maybe you're thinking, oh yeah, I wish. But believe me, it's true. I've worked with so many people who have been addicted to sugar, and they've worked with this way of eating and found that not only do they no longer crave sugar, but they're just not in the least bit interested in anything that's sugary. They're really happy to just let it go and, not have it at all. And I know that can work for you too. So alcohol is really potentially damaging to your diet. You've got to be so careful about what you're drinking and how much you're drinking. Spirits actually is 0 GL, but a 25 ml shot is 1 unit. The fact that it's 0 GL doesn't mean you can drink as much as you like. I'll explain in a moment. And you do need to be very careful about what you're actually putting with your spirits. If you're drinking wine, a small glass is around about 2 GLs. But if you go to a pub or a restaurant, you're probably more likely to have 175 ml. That's 2 to 2.5 units and is going to be correspondingly far higher GL value. With beer, a half a pint is 10 GL. It's only 1 unit of alcohol, but you can see because of the sugar content, the GL value is much higher. But you've got to be very careful with alcohol. Once it reaches your stomach, it creates the release of an enzyme called alcohol dehydrogenase, and that begins to break the alcohol down. So it effectively is just trying to reduce the amount of alcohol that's getting into the bloodstream. Now, women actually produce less of this enzyme, and that partially explains why women are more quickly affected by alcohol than men. And around about 10% of alcohol is expelled in the breath and in urine. Now, drinking on an empty stomach will lead to an insulin release, taking your blood sugar levels too low, and that creates hypoglycemia. Now, hypoglycemia will make you feel very hungry, and it can lead to changes in behavior. It can make you aggressive in the pursuit of food. And of course, the more hungry you feel, the more you will subsequently eat. And, maybe you've noticed that if you go out to a restaurant, they make sure that you get an alcoholic drink before you order and while you're looking at the menu. And usually that just leads to you ordering far more than you actually needed. So when alcohol is drunk with or near to a meal, it blocks the absorption of several vitamins and minerals that are essential for your body. So the recommended maximum intake for women is 14 units per week. For men, it's 21 units, and that's meant to be spread over a week, not in one night. It's really important that you always eat some fat or some protein with alcohol because that helps slow down the absorption. You might want to look for organic beer or wine so that you're avoiding the chemicals which are produced in normal wines and beers. Really key thing is don't binge drink. I've talked to so many people who say, oh, I only drink at weekends, I'm teetotal in the week. And then you find they drink the entire recommended intake for a week in one night. Now that puts an enormous strain on the liver, which has been happily doing its normal job all week, and then having to cope with the effects possibly of a poor diet, and then suddenly a massive dose of poison of alcohol to deal with. So moderate drinking, like a small glass of wine a night, can actually be beneficial for your heart. Have with a meal, enjoy it, drink it slowly, and that's all right. But sustained overconsumption of alcohol can lead to dependence and health problems. And alcoholics can suffer from brain cells being killed off by the alcohol, and those brain cells are never replaced. So refined white flour products are really not good for you. And here I'm talking about white bread, cakes, biscuits, pasta, pastry. They are deficient in essential vitamins and minerals. You will find if you pick up a pack of white bread that it's been fortified with certain vitamins, but they're synthetic. And your body doesn't know what they are, so it eliminates them. And if you look at a typical packet of cereal or a loaf of white bread, you'll see it's been fortified with niacin, riboflavin, etc., etc. And you might ask yourself, well, why? Why do these products have to be fortified? And it's because in the processing